for you this lesson from Unity of the Keys Spiritual Center.
Good morning, everyone. Hi. Happy Sunday. Happy Thanksgiving to our Canadian friends. And happy birthday, Zilpa. We love you so much. My name is Carolyn Sullivan, and most of you know me because I work in the office here at Unity of the Keys. But it's really nice to be with you all today. Today being one of our Sundays where we'd like to celebrate our music team with a couple extra songs. And Chris, our music director, like he said, he likes to share things about Unity when he does his Music Sundays. So something about maybe its history, traditions, maybe about the founders, about Unity Village, or something about the reverends or some of the inspirational teachers from Unity. A couple of weeks ago, Chris had a great idea and he asked me, hey, how about if we share something about that we all hear about all the time? Silent unity. So we talked about it and we thought it was a great idea. We do talk about silent unity prayer vigil pretty much every Sunday because when we bring up the prayer box to the front, we pray together upon all the prayers that are submitted in that box. Then our unity prayer team adds these names to their list and they pray upon them for a month. And then we send all the prayers to silent unity. They're sent to the Silent Unity Prayer Vigil, where the prayers are continuously prayed upon there for 30 days. So it's a big part of Unity. Prayers come from all over the world, not just from Unity churches, from many different denominations as well, and people all over. Silent Unity is located at the beautiful Unity Village campus. It's near Kansas City, Missouri. And the Prayer Vigil Chapel is located beneath a light that's glowing. It's beaming from the cupola above. And thousands of prayer requests are physically held in this sacred space, including the ones from our prayer box. The vigil receives millions of requests each year. In the chapel, there's an inscription painted on the wall. It says, "Be still and know." Be still and know. And the phrase comes from Psalm 46:10, and it's a core affirmation in the Unity spiritual movement. It symbolizes a key Unity belief that through stillness and meditation, one can access the divine within. Be still and know that I am God. It's an invitation to silence the inner turmoil and surrender control, trusting that Spirit is in charge and is always present, and that stillness is a state for receiving that divine presence. Be still and know. Receive that presence, that clarity comes, and peace with it. So how did Silent Unity start? I think it's fascinating. I love researching when Chris has an idea and I get to do a little research and learn more. How did it grow to be what it is today? And how did it evolve into holding millions of prayers each year? Well, in April 1890, which was 135 years ago, Unity co-founder Myrtle Fillmore announced in one of the Unity publications that they're opening a new department at Unity that she called the Society of Silent Help. A small group who met in silent soul communion at first only consisted of the Unity founders, Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, and a few friends and neighbors who had become interested. They met every night at 10 p.m. in the Fillmore home to pray together and to give a blessing to all those who tuned into them in thought. Sometimes to open the meeting, they sang a hymn or two, and always Charles or Myrtle led others in affirmative prayer. Every night, they held in mind and heart the prayer requests of everybody who had contacted them. Now, several years prior to this, Myrtle Fillmore's life was transformed when she heard, believed, and affirmed the idea, I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. Myrtle had been diagnosed with tuberculosis, but she spoke these life-affirming words every day for over 2 years to herself and to her cells, her whole body. And subsequently, she went on to live a long and healthy life of wholeness. So essentially, it was very well known that Myrtle Fillmore healed herself through her affirmative prayers. The word got out. And as the news of Myrtle's prayerful self-healing experience spread around, people near and far were sending prayer requests to her. As you can imagine, the Society of Silent Help prayer vigil began to grow rapidly. From lonely farms and little villages from the loneliness of the big cities, the letters began to come in all at once. From the people who were sick and the people who were unhappy, and from people who were seeking the unfoldment of their own spiritual powers. In a short time, all over the land, people were also sitting down at 10 p.m. at their homes, and they were joining in Silent Soul Communion with the Silent Help group in Kansas City that they'd heard about. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were in tune with their time. They knew that people had come to the place where they were seeking to find truth within. It was for these people that the Society of Silent Help was formed, and it was for these people that the Unity movement just grew so fast. Eventually, the Fillmores changed the name from Silent Help to Silent Unity. That's the name we recognize today as a symbol of love and service. In 1907, Charles Fillmore added brand new telephone technology to the prayer work at Silent Unity. He just knew that this would enable even more people to receive the prayer support that they deserve. And Silent Unity grew through the decades. Silent Unity now prays individually with callers from around the world, answering letters, emails, texts, prayer requests, social media requests. In fact, I just heard today from Deborah Butler that there's even an app for Silent Unity called You Pray, the letter U, and then pray, if you want to look that up. But when one thinks of Silent Unity, one must also think of affirmative prayer. And unity, and therefore it's Silent Unity, prayer is not particularly about asking or pleading with God to change things, but about affirming our oneness with the divine. In many Christian traditions, prayer is often seen as petition, asking God for help, for guidance, for intervention, with an understanding, though, that God is separate, a separate, all-powerful being who may respond according to the divine will and the ask. But in Unity, we approach prayer differently. We see prayer as affirmative, not beseeching. It is a way of remembering and affirming that our oneness is with the divine. We open our hearts and minds to peace, love, wisdom that's already present within us. In the stillness, we do that. You know, asking, though, is absolutely fine in Unity prayer. Of course, we'll be asking. But in Unity, affirming what is already within us is actually a powerful method of asking. Is going to the core, going to God. Prayer doesn't change God to make God do something. It changes us. It changes our vibrations. It changes the energy. Through stillness, affirmation, and meditation, we raise our consciousness to align with spiritual truth so that we may experience healing and clarity and a deeper connection with a sacred presence that is always, always here. So you may ask, well, then how do I pray for others? If I myself, as the prayer, is the one who's experiencing this conscious connection with the divine, that's a good question, right? Well, in Unity, through metaphysics, affirmative prayer doesn't just send energy to another person, like you would think in the usual sense. Instead, it awakens and aligns consciousness, both in the one who prays and the one being prayed for, with the higher vibration of divine truth. When you pray affirmatively for someone, you're not trying to change them. You're recognizing their divine essence and power and love. And in doing so, you lift your own consciousness with them into that awareness of the oneness, of the love, of the presence, of the stillness together. Because consciousness is shared at a spiritual level, that shift naturally blesses and uplifts the other person as well. Affirmative prayer changes energy by lifting thoughts from fear to truth. And it changes consciousness by awakening awareness of divine wholeness for both the one who prays and the one who is prayed for. Every day, millions of people pray for others, and many do so affirmatively with a shift in consciousness all throughout the universe every day, focusing on the energy of spirit, love, oneness. What a glorious vibrational exchange of love. In fact, spiritual healers, whether you believe in them or not, view themselves and the client as one. They care deeply for the client and hold on to that shift in consciousness. The feeling of authentic love is the fuel behind the healing. When we pray in accordance with the law of love, we pray in accordance with the will of spirit. This vibrational energy exchange has been scientifically studied extensively and with amazing results through quantum physics, but that would be for another talk. So knowing this, therefore, there's sacred benefits for those who spend time praying for others. One who prays often for others lives with a conscious awareness of a loving presence within and around. It's inevitable when you're holding that love for others. Your awareness is heightened to that vibration. It's therefore easier to trust with all your heart and to surrender to that trust of the universe. Just imagine at Silent Unity what a privilege it is to affirm peace for someone who's anxious about an upcoming surgery, or to celebrate with someone who just had a baby, or to hold a vision for someone who has set a new goal in life and would like to have prayers on it. It is a responsibility, yes, but it's an immeasurable honor. Reverend Avery proudly served at Silent Unity for a few months before she graduated from Unity. And she told me about the beautiful prayer room under the lighted cupola that had boxes and boxes of written prayer requests, flash drives, recordings. She'll never forget that one of her professors called the Silent Unity Prayer Chapel the night light for the world. And our current board vice president, who's a prayer chaplain and a wonderful friend, Aaron Andes, he also served at Silent Unity. So I'd love to invite Aaron to the podium. Would you please come and share a little bit with us about your experience at Silent Unity? Perhaps share with us how long you were there and how you enjoyed your experience.
All right. Will do. Well, everybody, it's really, it's an interesting experience to have. We have an opportunity now that we didn't have back, let's see, she talked about the 1890s. I worked at Silent Unity in the 1990s. Things were a little bit different then than I imagine they are right now. We used an old printer that would do papers that fold back and forth, and then there'd be a big stack of great big thick paper, and it was a list of names of people who have asked for prayer, or of course, prayer lists of people who had, said, can you please pray for my list of people? And they'd rattle out a list of names. Being paid to pray with people on the phone was the main job I had at Silent Unity. And this is how it started. The phone would ring, I'd answer the phone and say, Silent Unity, how may we pray with you? And then I'd hear a story, or I'd hear a request, or an affirmation if it was a Unity person. Although most of the callers we had were not Unity people. As she said, we get calls from all around the planet. And I worked on the night shift. We were called the night lights. And there, back then it was shift. There was a day shift, an evening shift, and a night shift. And we kept a 24-hour prayer vigil in that vigil chapel room that she mentioned, had the "Peace, be still" written on the wall. There's something quite remarkable about being paid by the hour to sit in the silence in a prayer chapel, to be paid to meditate. It's not a lot of money, but it was a job. And at the time I was a social worker working full time and in Kansas City, and I would go out to Unity Village on Friday and Saturday nights. So on the weekends, I was working at night at the Silent Unity, and I don't know how I did it. I couldn't work that much now, but in a way, as all great jobs are, it gives to you, not just in money, obviously, but it gives you lessons in how to pray. We learned specifically how to pray affirmative prayer, the Myrtle Fillmore version of affirmative prayer. So there's praying, there's Unity's approach to prayer, there's affirmative prayer, because Unity does use other types of prayer other than just affirmative prayer. There's Myrtle Fillmore's style of prayer, and then there's Myrtle Fillmore's style of prayer at Silent Unity. So it was a very, very specific. It reminded me a little bit of a cookbook in that we had different sections. If somebody needed healing, we would pray about healing. And it's been such a joy to be on the prayer, as a prayer chaplain here at Unity of the Keys. It's changed over the years, but when I first did it, our founding minister, Reverend Evelyn, would do our monthly, or however often we'd meet, prayer chaplain trainings, I guess you could say, and we would learn more about it, and it would remind me of things that I already knew from Silent Unity. Having the experience of praying over and over again with people changes yourself. So I recommend praying as often as you can. I recommend calling Silent Unity, writing them a letter, using the You Pray app, emailing them, and find out what it is that our church is tithing to. Because yes, we send tithe checks to Silent Unity on a regular basis. Find out what it is we're getting our money for. Yes, we send all of our prayer requests that are put in the prayer box to Silent Unity. And the Silent Unity workers would love to pray with more Unity people. It's so nice to get someone who gets it, who doesn't have to be jumping through lots of mental hoops to understand what it is we're trying to accomplish, which is peace, be still, and know. And that's a challenge enough for those of us who are already on this path, but for the people who are, on a totally different path, calling in because they know that there's a 24-hour prayer line, that's a big challenge. So, I learned a lot about myself doing it, and I recommend it highly. Thanks for letting me talk.
Thank you, Aaron, and bless you. What a beautiful experience. It's nice to hear about it. So Silent Unity is often referred to as the heart of the Unity movement. And for many people, it's a heart that beats with the rhythm of the world. Silent Unity stands for the hands of prayer, outstretched in love and service, outstretched in faith. I'm happy to share with you about Silent Unity today, and now we're relaxed into the presence for meditation. Probably